On time travel. This is the biggest one. And technically, this is cheating because there were several time travel theories floating around before Endgame hit theaters. Some were stronger than others, but once set photos leaked showing the cast dressed in their 2012 Battle of New York outfits from the Avengers. And with Ant-Man standing right there with them, fans connected the dots fast. The core idea was simple. Go back. Stop Thanos before he ever collects the stones. Prevent the snap before it ever happens. Clean, direct, bold. The most obvious method involved the Time Stone. It originally belonged to Doctor Strange before Thanos took it. If the Avengers could somehow pry it off his gauntlet, they could rewind everything and erase the snap like it never happened. But then there was the quantum realm. Thanks to Ant-Man and the Wasp, we learned that time and space barely behaved there. Scott Lang getting trapped and then reappearing only fueled the idea that the quantum realm would be their tunnel through history. Another theory suggested Tony Stark would use his BARF technology from Captain America, Civil War. Instead of physically traveling back, maybe they would simulate past events and figure out exactly where they failed. However it happened, one thing felt certain. Time would bend. 2. Steve Rogers will die. Steve Rogers has always been a man out of time. Frozen in the 1940s, thawed into the modern world, and constantly trying to adjust. He built a life in the 21st century, but it was never easy. He was hunted by his own government, branded a criminal, forced underground. As Captain America, he was the moral center of the Avengers. When the team fractured, it was Steve who carried the weight of that division. Taking him off the board would leave a massive hole. Notice the wording. Steve Rogers might die. Captain America would not. In the comics, both Sam Wilson and Bucky Barnes take up the shield at different times. The mantle survives even if the man does not. The symbol is larger than one person. There was also a narrative symmetry to it. Steve started as a skinny kid willing to jump on a grenade. Ending his story with one final sacrifice would bring him full circle. If Endgame wanted emotional impact, this was the cleanest hit. 3. Tony Stark will die. By the time Endgame arrived, Robert Downey Jr. had played Tony Stark for over a decade. 10 movies, 11 years. The Marvel Cinematic Universe began with Iron Man, and Tony was its foundation. More than anyone, Tony feared Thanos. Ever since the Battle of New York, the idea of something bigger coming haunted him. He built armor around the world because he believed the threat was inevitable. That kind of long-running anxiety often leads to one final confrontation. From a storytelling perspective, it made sense. The Infinity Saga started with Tony. Ending it with him would close the circle neatly. His death could be for Pepper, for Steve, for the entire planet. It would complete his arc from selfish weapons manufacturer to selfless hero. And let's be honest, when a franchise runs this long, someone important usually pays the price. Tony Stark dying felt less like a twist and more like destiny. 4. No one will die. This theory leaned half on hope and half on business logic. The MCU is a massive franchise. Why permanently remove characters like Tony or Steve when you could quietly move them into the background? Let them retire. Let them mentor. Bring them back for cameos when needed. From a studio perspective, killing profitable characters is risky. You do not burn down your biggest assets unless you absolutely have to. Infinity War already delivered a devastating blow. Half the universe turned to dust. Would Marvel really follow that up with more permanent deaths just 1 year later? There was also the Disney factor. Historically, the MCU had not leaned heavily into permanent loss. Characters fell, sure, but rarely in ways that could not be undone or reframed. Instead of funerals, maybe Endgame would give us retirement speeches. Maybe heroes would step aside rather than fall. It was the most optimistic theory on the board, and optimism, in a story this dark, felt almost rebellious. 5. Gamora will stop Thanos. When Thanos sacrificed Gamora for the Soul Stone in Avengers Infinity War, it looked final. But then we saw something strange. A young Gamora standing in an orange world, the color of the Soul Stone. That moment sparked a huge idea. What if Gamora was not gone, but trapped inside the Soul Stone? After the snap, Thanos sits alone on his farm planet, but symbolically, he is not alone. Gamora lingers in his conscience. She asks him if it was worth it, and he never answers. Maybe that question keeps echoing. Some believed Gamora would break free from the Soul Stone and take revenge herself. Others thought her presence inside it would influence Thanos from within. There was even the possibility that Nebula, fueled by grief and rage, would finish what Gamora started. In every version, one thing stayed the same. Thanos' greatest sacrifice would become his weakness. His ultimate weapon would undo him. 06. Thanos will take it all back. This theory flipped everything. Avengers. Infinity War was structured as Thanos' story. He had the mission. He made the sacrifices. He won. And when the credits rolled, the screen promised that Thanos would return. Not the Avengers. Not the fallen heroes. Thanos. That detail mattered. When young Gamora appears in that orange Soul Stone world and asks him if it was worth it, he does not answer. That silence lingers. It suggests doubt. It suggests that even the mad Titan might question the cost. Imagine him sitting alone on his quiet farm planet, replaying the moment he sacrificed the daughter he claimed to love. He achieved balance. He completed his destiny. But the universe feels empty. Victory tastes thin. So what if Endgame made him reconsider? What if Thanos used the Infinity Stones one more time, not to destroy but to restore? Not because the Avengers defeated him, but because he chose to undo it himself. It would make him both villain and hero in equal measure. The architect of destruction, the hand that rebuilds. In that version, the story does not end with Thanos being overpowered. It ends with him making a different choice. 07. Tony will meet his and Pepper's teenage daughter. This theory was smaller, quieter, but strangely powerful. Before Endgame released, reports surfaced that Catherine Langford had been cast in a mystery role. Around the same time, she posted a photo with red hair. Fans immediately started connecting dots. At the beginning of Infinity War, Tony tells Pepper about a dream where she was pregnant. She brushes it off. But the scene feels intentional. Why include that detail in a movie packed with cosmic stakes unless it meant something? If time travel was involved, maybe Tony would not just revisit battles. Maybe he would see his future. Imagine Tony meeting a teenage version of his daughter before she is even born. Seeing the life he could have, hearing her voice, understanding what he is fighting for in a completely different way. It adds a layer of tragedy, especially if he still has to sacrifice himself. He would not just be saving the world, he would be saving her future. For a man who spent years afraid of what was coming, meeting his own child would shift everything. 08. Everyone who was snapped is in a parallel universe. When Thanos snapped his fingers, half of all life turned to dust. It looked like death. It felt like death. But what if it was something else? This theory suggested that instead of killing them, Thanos transported them to a parallel universe. In that world, Peter Parker and Doctor Strange are alive. Tony Stark is gone. The roles are reversed. It is an intriguing idea. It softens the brutality of the snap while raising new possibilities. Two realities, both broken in different ways. If true, Endgame could have shown both sides working toward the same goal. The surviving Avengers in one universe, the snapped heroes in another. Two fractured worlds trying to reconnect. But there were problems. The dusting looked painful. Peter's final moments did not feel like a portal jump. They felt like fading out of existence. Some variations of this theory went even further, suggesting the MCU would permanently split into two timelines. But that would undermine everything Marvel built. The entire franchise thrived on connection, on characters crossing paths. Creating permanent separation would undo that. Still, for a while, the idea of a hidden universe out there, full of dusted heroes waiting, felt possible. 09. Everyone who was snapped is trapped in the Soul Stone. This was a cleaner variation of the "they did not really die" theory. Instead of a parallel universe, the snapped heroes were trapped inside the Soul Stone itself. Just like Gamora might have been. We know very little about how the Soul Stone works. Red Skull explains the sacrifice required to obtain it, but its inner mechanics remain mysterious. That gap in knowledge left room for speculation. Maybe the Soul Stone is not just a gem. Maybe it is a pocket reality, a place where souls exist in suspension. Some fans believe Gamora's spirit was controlling it from within, that she protected the snapped heroes by pulling them into the stone instead of letting them truly die. In that version, Endgame would not be about resurrection. It would be about release. There were even theories that Adam Warlock, who plays a major role in the Infinity Gauntlet comics, would appear and help navigate that spiritual realm. Whether or not those details held up, the core idea was simple. The heroes were not gone. They were waiting. 10. Thanos will be defeated in the first half of the movie. This theory came from confidence. In Infinity War, the Avengers fought without Captain Marvel. Thor did not have Stormbreaker for most of the film. They were divided, underprepared, outmatched. In Endgame, the pieces looked different. Captain Marvel appeared early in the trailers. Thor had his axe and a clear lesson learned. Aim for the head. With that kind of power on the board, some believed Thanos would fall within the first 20 minutes. Quick strike, clean victory. Then the real problem would begin. Not defeating Thanos, but undoing what he already did. More extreme versions of this theory suggested massive retcons or a new villain stepping in, like Dormammu from Doctor Strange. Those ideas felt less grounded, but the core concept was not wild. Thanos as the opening obstacle rather than the final boss. The true endgame being about restoring balance, not winning a fight. It would shift the entire structure of the movie. And for a film built on subverting expectations, that felt possible.